Welcome to Northwest Newsweek, and thanks for being with us. Ontario's chief coroner says it's unlikely charges will be laid in the investigation into the deaths of 17-year-old Tammy Kiash and 14-year-old Josiah Begg. On May 6th, both Kiash and Begg disappeared in Thunder Bay. The body of Kiash was discovered along the banks of the Nebeng-McIntyre floodway on May 7th. 12 days later, after exhaustive search efforts by volunteers and police, including an OPP dive team, Begg's body was located in the same river system farther downstream. An investigation by Thunder Bay Police led to no charges being laid, but after an outcry from Indigenous leaders, Ontario's chief coroner Dr. Dirk Heyer directed the York Regional Police to review the investigation. Heyer says that review has since been completed and he believes no charges will be laid.
The legislation prohibits us from finding fault or laying blame. So when there are issues of responsibility, those issues would fall to other authorities. So, for example, if there was potential criminal findings, then those any charges that may arise from those would be left to the police services.
Heyer says he hopes the additional work carried out by his office and York Police gave the families more insight, information, and understanding of what happened. Officials with the Thunder Bay Service, York Regional Police, and Anishinaabe Nation declined to comment on the matter. A 64-year-old Red Lake man is dead after an incident on Packwash Lake. On Monday, OPP responded to a report of a missing man who had gone ice fishing and not returned home. Friends searching for Patrick Wagner discovered a hole in the ice along with a snow machine jacket and helmet. Members of the OPP's emergency response team, a helicopter, and the Lake of the Woods Search and Rescue were involved in a search and located Wagner's body on the lake just this week. The OPP want to remind people to be aware of ice conditions before venturing out onto the region's lakes and rivers. Mayors and representatives from communities around the Northwest were in Toronto earlier this week speaking on behalf of the forestry sector and against the actions of environmental groups. They say those groups have waged a campaign to stop forestry companies from continuing to operate in Ontario. Adam Riley has more.
Quite frankly, that we are fed up with being portrayed as a region that has no regard for the sustainability of our environment that we live in, that we have lived in, and that we intend to live in for generations to come.
NOMA President Wendy Landry is pulling no punches when it comes to fighting environmental groups protesting against communities relying off of forestry. She says since September, anti-forestry activists such as CPAW's Wildlands League and the David Suzuki Foundation have been portraying the industry and several northern communities as forest destroyers and have lobbied the government into legislation that would have a disastrous impact on the sector and the 57,000 people it employs in the region.
We are forestry and we are the subject matter experts. This is our backyard, and we deserve a say in the policy that governs our backyards.
Landry says in 2007, lobbyists forced the government to pass what she says is an unimplementable Endangered Species Act and used the woodland caribou as a species of interest. Landry was joined by representatives from several of the communities who are deeply invested in the forestry sector, such as Red Rock Indian Band Chief Edward Wawier.
The fact that the government has not meaningfully engaged or informed our communities is appalling, given the unknown impacts these policies could have within our jurisdiction.
Kenora Mayor Dave Canfield says his community has been a part of the forestry sector for almost 150 years. He points out some concerns with Ontario's Environment Commissioner's recent Good Choices, Bad Choices report released last month, adding most environmental groups say once you clear-cut an area, woodland caribou never go back. Canfield disputes that claim.
These dots, this is a clear-cut, them red dots are caribou. They're actually collared caribou or spotted in GPS by some of the woodlands people that work in the bush. $11 million spent by the Ontario government, Ministry of Natural Resources, to show this. We know that. We're there every day. And we're sick and tired of listening to the misinformation and the lies that are coming out of people that don't even know or walk the walk that we do.
Adam Riley, TBT News.
The federal government is trying to eradicate a disease-causing bacteria that affects local waterways. $1 million has been provided by the federal government for an effort being conducted by the Northern Ontario School of Medicine in conjunction with Discover Air Feast Services. The money will be used to develop innovative camera technology that quickly and accurately identifies toxic blue-green algae that affects local waterways.
This allows for technology to be developed that will provide a much more rapid identification of the algae and then be able to take action that much more quickly, and also be able to monitor whether remediation efforts are having any kind of impact.
So it's harmful to people's health. If you are in the water that's contaminated, it can give you rashes, lots of health problems with it, and certainly if you drink the water that's contaminated with it, it can lead to all sorts of health issues as well, including chronic long-term illnesses potentially.
Discover Air Fire Services says development of the new technology could also result in the creation of a large number of new jobs. Residents of 21 remote communities, most of which are First Nations in the Northwest, may have an increase in their electricity bills, which, if allowed by regulators, would start May 1st of 2018. Hydro One has proposed an increase of $1.55 a month for a year-round customer. However, government-funded residential customers would see an increase ranging between $8 and $13 a month, depending if the community can be accessed year-round or not. Communities affected include Armstrong, Big Trout Lake, Martin Falls, and Webequie. The Ontario Energy Board has to review the rate increase. They'll be holding a public meeting for the increases on November 29th in Thunder Bay. The Thunder Bay Regional Hospital's mobile cancer screening bus continues to make its way through the city. The Screen for Life coach, as it's known, doesn't typically travel beyond the city borders during the winter season, but it did make the short drive into Chania this week. Ryan Benazzo has more.
This is our mammography unit.
Every year, about 6,000 women across northwestern Ontario are screened for breast cancer on the Health Sciences Centre's Screen for Life mobile coach. It travels through the region, providing mammograms to women aged 50 to 74. Pap tests for younger women and colon cancer testing are also offered. Mammographer Julia Bailey has seen many people benefit from early detection.
Obviously, we never want to actually have anyone with a cancer diagnosis, but it's really heartening to see that if they do, we're catching it early and they've got the best possible chance for a happy outcome.
This is their first time in Chania, and we're thrilled to have them here.
Janine Mann is a community volunteer who's been working for several years to bring the coach to Chania. For her, breast cancer detection hits close to home.
My grandmother, great-grandmother, and great-great-grandmother all died of breast cancer. So I really, really feel it's important that people get this done. Early detection does save lives.
For all of the tests that we do, they're sent away either to a radiologist in the case of a mammogram, and they're going to interpret the images, or for the Pap test and the fecal occult blood test, they're going to the lab for interpretation. And at that point, you're going to have follow-up testing before they can definitively say that there is a diagnosis. Yeah, so that's all managed between someone's primary care provider and in conjunction with the navigators that we have in our office.
The Screen for Life coach will work its way around Thunder Bay through the winter before heading into the surrounding region next spring. Ryan Benazzo, TBT News.
Rainy River's new gold mines held a career fair in Thunder Bay on Saturday, hoping to draw new talent to the company. Locals in search of a mining work had the chance to look at the jobs being offered by New Gold. Prospective employees were able to learn about the company and fill out applications for available positions. Production's already underway at New Gold Mines, with the company producing its first gold brick last month. New Gold officials say they come to Thunder Bay partly because they've already seen most of the applicants in the Rainy River District.
We employ over 500, close to 600 people that are primarily local. We've exhausted a lot of the workforce within, and we're expanding to the Thunder Bay District, looking for some of the specialized trades and more professional careers.
So we're looking for people that have experience in mining, for surface miners, people that have worked on equipment in mines, and looking for business analysts with financial background.
While the job fair is held mainly to find new employees, New Gold's also trying to promote the mine to the rest of the Northwest. Well, students at Kingsway Park School can now do much of their learning outside of the traditional classroom, and it's all thanks to a group of out-of-town high schoolers. Teens from Queen Elizabeth High School in Sioux Lookout have built the elementary students a new outdoor structure that will function as a year-round learning facility. Corey Nordstrom has that story.
It's an exciting new addition for students at Thunder Bay's Kingsway Park Public School. The school has taken receipt of a large new timber frame structure that will serve as an outdoor classroom. And it's all thanks to a unique agreement that involves Ontario Power Generation and students from Sioux Lookout's Queen Elizabeth District High School. Using $100,000 worth of materials donated by OPG, the high school students spent the last 2 days working on the impressive facility. Kingsway Principal Darren Lentz says it's great to see it take shape before their eyes.
It's wonderful to see it come together. It's been over a year in the making, so the students are down now here putting this up, and it's wonderful to see their artwork.
The project was spearheaded by Queen Elizabeth teacher and timber framer Matt Cullum. He had the initial design in place, and OPG provided the funds. Sioux Lookout High School students have made these structures before, but this one is by far the largest.
It just makes you feel proud that you're putting it up for other people, and other people are going to be seeing your work across the province, so it's pretty cool in that perspective, I guess.
Providing clean air to the province is very important to us. An outdoor classroom where kids get to breathe clean air while learning and being in our local environment was a win-win and a fit for OPG and the school and the kids of our community.
After Sioux Lookout students finish up the build, Kingsway Park just has to add the roof, and in about 2 weeks' time, should have students using the outdoor classroom. Corey Nordstrom, TVT News.
In recent years, efforts have been made to address Indigenous issues in communities across Canada. Over the last year, several initiatives in the Northwest have been launched to change the name of many streets that some might find culturally insensitive. One of those cases is Indian Road in Long Lac. This summer, an idea to rename the street was brought to council by Geraldton Ward Councillor Eric Peach. When it was first discussed, there was a support for the idea. However, after discussions with those living in the area and weighing the financial costs of renaming the roadway, Mayor Renaud Beaulieu says council decided against renaming.
I think asking around. I personally have asked some chiefs about it, and they said, no, we don't have to. Why spend money doing that? Because you got to remember, the municipality now also had a price tag behind this, that if we did those changes, the school boards were looking like, I believe for each school board, we're running roughly $60,000 per a school board to do those changes.
However, Beaulieu says they would be open to discussing the idea again if it was brought up by a member of the community instead of council. Well, coming up after the break, political parties in Thunder Bay Superior North and Kenora Rainy River begin selecting their candidates for the 2018 provincial election. The provincial NDP in Thunder Bay Superior North have chosen a candidate for next year's provincial election. Lise Vaugeois won the nomination and will represent the party on the ballot in June. Corey Nordstrom has the details.
The new NDP candidate for Thunder Bay Superior North is Lakehead University professor and small business owner Lise Vaugeois.
It feels very exciting, a little nerve-wracking. It will obviously be a big change, but one I'm looking forward to taking on.
The race was between her and French School Board trustee Alain Lauzon. Lauzon says while he did not win, he believes the region is ready to pick an NDP member again.
We're on the cusp of something significant here. The energy is building right now on our side. We have the people, the policies, and the tools in place to make sure that, Ontario changes for the better.
The nomination meeting originally had Algoma Manitoulin MPP Michael Mantha as a guest speaker, but Mantha could not attend due to a scheduling problem. Thunder Bay Rainy River New Democratic candidate and former MP John Rafferty spoke in his place.
Well, it's always difficult to beat an incumbent. It doesn't matter what political stripe you happen to be. But Lisa's a hard worker and she's a good speaker. And quite frankly, the NDP has the right policies going into this election.
Vaugeois says she will attempt to do away with privatization for public services and that the current policies do not work.
I will be fighting for public ownership of public services. I think privatization is the wrong path to go. It results in much higher costs to everyone. We need a strong public service. We need jobs that pay well. We need jobs that have benefits. Without those, we don't have a tax base. So the idea of cutting, and leaving more and more people with precarious work, it's self-defeating.
Vaugeois will be running against incumbent Liberal MPP Michael Gravel and PC candidate Derek Parks. The election is scheduled for next June. Corey Nordstrom, TBT News.
The Northwest Progressive Conservatives have picked a familiar face to run in Thunder Bay Superior North for next summer's provincial election.
It's the passion that we have as Northerners, is that we're Northerners by choice.
Derek Parks has been acclaimed as the PC candidate for Thunder Bay Superior North. Parks previously ran in the same riding on the PC ticket in 2014, finishing in third place. At a meeting earlier this week, Parks accepted the nomination, becoming emotional as he spoke about his commitment to Northern Ontario. Originally from Nollaloo, Parks drew criticism in 2014 when it was revealed he lived in Southern Ontario. However, Parks has since moved to the Northwest, buying a home in Shunia. The last time a progressive conservative won the riding was in 1963 when it was known as Port Arthur.
Taken advantage of with the hydro rates. That's one of the common things I hear when I talk to people is hydro. And now you look at the municipal impact assessments that are going on, where you have the people out in Schreiber, where they're comparing a house in Schreiber to something in Muskoka, and they say, oh, it's on water. They add $100,000 to the assessment value, and these poor seniors on fixed incomes are wondering how are they going to pay the bills.
You can see the emotion. His voice cracked a couple of times, and he realizes the responsibility of representing the riding, but he also realizes the commitment he's made to this community. So, all in all, I don't think that Thunder Bay Superior North could find a better man to represent them, a better person to be an MPP than Derek Parks.
Parks will be running against Liberal incumbent Michael Gravel and an NDP candidate to be selected at a nomination meeting on Sunday. The provincial election is expected to happen next June. And the next provincial election is just over 7 months away. The parties are going through the process of selecting who will represent them in 2018. For some contests, familiar faces will be returning and others are stepping away from the spotlight. That seems to be the case in Kenora Rainy River. Adam Riley has that story.
For 6 years, Kenora Rainy River has been represented in the Ontario legislature by Sarah Campbell. However, for the next provincial election slated for June 7th, 2018, the banner for the New Democratic Party will be carried by a new candidate. Campbell announced earlier this week that she would not be running for re-election as she is expecting her second child in February. She says working for her constituents has been an honor, but believes now is the time to come home and give her family the care and attention they need. Meanwhile, as one familiar name leaves the political landscape, another re-enters. Last Saturday, Progressive Conservatives in Kenora-Rainy River chose who they believe will lead their party to victory in the riding. For 7 years, Greg Rickford was the MP for the federal Kenora riding under Prime Minister Stephen Harper. During his time, he served as Minister of Science and Technology and FedNor, and later as the Natural Resources Minister. Rickford says he's excited to get back into the game, especially as it brings new opportunities for him.
Well, I'm thrilled and truly honored. I mean, my family and I put a lot of thought into this, obviously with 2 young children, but this is my passion. And it's something that over the years folks have appreciated across the riding, and I'm just really happy to be joining Patty Brown's team.
Rickford received the nomination through acclamation and already has a series of issues he wants to bring forward and deal with if elected MPP.
Critical infrastructure continues to be the opportunity, but also the issue. Healthcare, health services in particular, there's a clear lack of services that we have in some of the communities. Cardiac care, for example, right here in Kenora. Our highways, our roads continue to need to be addressed. I think of the twinning of the highway. We announced that 7 years ago, very early on in my political career. This is squarely within provincial jurisdiction, and this government has failed to start that project.
The Liberal Party will also have a new face in the race in 2018. Earlier this year, Anthony Leek, who had run in the previous 2 provincial elections, announced he would not be seeking the nomination for a 3rd time. The provincial election in 2018 also stands to be a new battleground of sorts for Kenora-Rainy River, as the riding will be shrinking to accommodate the creation of one of 2 new northern ridings called Kiiwetinoong, which will have its own set of new candidates seeking office. Adam Riley, TBT News.
Coming up next, police forces across the Northwest gear up for the festive season to make sure people have a safe and happy holiday. Stay with us. The holiday season brings a variety of social events, many of which involve alcohol, and Unfortunately, some of those who drink continue to get behind the wheel. Police officers from several law enforcement agencies teamed up to launch the Festive Ride campaign earlier this week outside the Max Mart on the corner of Arthur and Franklin Streets. They handed out coupons for coffee or hot chocolate to the drivers they stopped and warned them of the dangers of drinking and driving. OPP Traffic Sergeant David Bell says it's alarming the message hasn't gotten through.
It is still very surprised the number of people that are arrested for impaired throughout the Christmas season. And we try to have these kickoffs to remind people, make a wise choice, drive sober, arrive home safe.
There are so many options that are out there. There really is no excuse, especially this time of year, for there to be impaired driving. We know that everybody's out celebrating the season, and with all the publicized means of getting around, taxis, Operation Red Nose, Drive Safe, and public transportation, there really is no reason to be drinking and driving.
Kitani notes drunk driving arrests in the city spiked in 2016, and we're on pace to match the dubious numbers yet again this year. Police will be out in full force throughout the holiday season in an effort to keep the roads safe for everybody using them. Well, that'll do it for this week's edition of Northwest Newsweek. Thanks for being with us and have a great week.